On the verge of turning 50, Duncan Wiesla goes to his doctor for a regular health checkup. Despite being in excellent health, the scars on his skin and metal fragments in his body are clearly visible. After a quick backdoor health check, the doctor finds no issues except for Duncan's smoking habit.
I quit.
Good for you.
The man of his word is a legendary assassin known as the Black Kaiser. He works for a company called Damocles, which retires all its assassins at the age of 50. While making a $200,000 donation to an unknown recipient, Duncan's personal accountant tells him that in 14 days and on his 50th birthday, he will receive his $8 million pension from Damocles. Meanwhile, in Chile, we meet another assassin about to retire, Michael Green.
Retirement, here I come, mother.
Unlike Duncan, Michael's having an incredibly good time. He's celebrating his retirement with a beautiful woman named Cindy, experimenting with enough substances to give a chemist a headache. The real fun's about to begin, and Cindy's close to retiring his last line of defense. That's when Mr. Green suddenly gets shot by a sniper. A group of specialist assassins including Facundo, Hilda, Carl, Alexei, and also Cindy have been sent to kill him.
Why?
You got old, Michael. Not that old after all.
The team finishes off the job and leaves the scene as Mr. Green's final thrust loses its steam. After Michael's funeral, Duncan meets with Vivian, a fellow assassin who now mostly works as a manager, organizing assignments for the killers employed by Damocles. Vivian tells Duncan that their boss has assigned him one last mission before his retirement, a revenge job targeting Michael's killers. However, Vivian names a Mexican assassin living in Belarus as the murderer, not the assassin team. To motivate him, Vivian promises that Duncan will receive a payment of $1 million for this final job. But Duncan doesn't say anything in response and just leaves the restaurant after taking the documents. Duncan returns to his home in Triple Oak, Montana. After getting multiple messages on the Damocles private network, he contacts Vivian, destroying one SIM card after another to avoid being traced. Vivian increases her offer to $2 million, half to be paid upfront and the rest after the job is done. Although Duncan is still hesitant about accepting the job, he tells Vivian to upload the necessary information onto the Damocles server. Vivian then meets with the boss, Mr. Blute, to get the necessary authorization to transfer the money. Turns out Mr. Blute is planning to sell the company, and to boost its value, he has been killing off retiring assassins to claim their retirement funds through a clause in their contracts. He has no intention of paying out the pensions. Instead, he has decided to eliminate them once they retire or their contracts end. Duncan will also receive the biggest pension fund out of all of them. Blute intentionally gave Duncan one last job in order to set him up and kill him too. Vivian advises her boss to just pay Duncan's pension according to the contract and avoid any trouble because the Black Kaiser is extremely dangerous and not someone to mess with, but Mr. Blute stubbornly proceeds with his plan. Meanwhile, Duncan has quietly started to look into everything connected to his target. After gathering enough information, he heads to Belarus to complete the mission without telling Vivian. He disguises himself as a maintenance worker and goes to his target's hotel, pretending to fix a door. He makes a lot of noise on purpose to irritate the leg-focused Mexican man. Duncan's plan works, and he seizes the chance to nail his target to the wall. After dealing with a few Mexican henchmen, he stumbles upon a file that has details about him and quickly realizes the mission was a setup to get him killed. He grabs an electric drill to interrogate the Mexican hitman, hoping to uncover who is behind the plot, but the hitman has no clue. Once he eliminates his target, Duncan snaps a photo of the body. He then calls Vivian and tells him he will accept the job. After getting the $1 million down payment, Duncan immediately sends Vivian the photo of the target's body and demands the full payment in 24 hours.
Somebody set me up over here. You better pray you have nothing to do with it.
Frightened and anxious, Vivian rushes to meet Mr. Blute. She tells him that Duncan carried out the mission without any problem and is now demanding the remaining $1 million. Vivian is enraged and urges her boss to quickly pay Duncan the full amount and his pension, warning that the Black Kaiser wouldn't just sit back and would likely come after them. Worried that Duncan might turn against them, the boss agrees to pay the remaining $1 million, but refuses to give him his pension. Instead, he instructs the specialist assassins to take down the Black Kaiser. After completing his mission, Duncan returns home, where he's constantly haunted by memories of a violent past mission. As he goes about his daily life, he notices a new neighbor, Camille, who has just moved into the house next to his. Duncan often runs into Camille at the convenience store and nearby restaurants. He observes that Camille always appears sad, and she startles easily at the slightest noise. It's clear that she's going through a difficult time in her life. Over time, Duncan and Camille develop a connection, spending more time together and talking.
What was your job?
I was in the funeral business.
Duncan tries to support Camille in his own way, even buying her a gun and attempting to teach her how to shoot, but she's unable to pull the trigger and seems deeply troubled by the weapon, likely due to a traumatic experience in her past.
It's okay. We'll get you something else. I still have the receipt.
Meanwhile, the specialists are on a mission to locate Duncan, so they track down his personal accountant and pressure him into disclosing Duncan's location. The accountant hands over a file containing information on 4 properties Duncan owns, each in a different state. However, since he genuinely doesn't know where Duncan is currently residing, the assassins kill him on the spot. The team then visits each address one by one in search of Duncan. Their first stop is in Florida, where Cindy, as usual, arrives in a flashy outfit, but things quickly go wrong. The apartment is rented out, and the current resident mistakes Cindy for some kind of service he ordered.
What are you into? Being hit?
After failing to find Duncan at any of the 4 properties, the assassins ruthlessly eliminate the tenants at each location. After digging further into Duncan's files, the team discovers that he has been making occasional $200,000 transfers to an unknown recipient through a bank in Triple Oak, Montana.
Imagine how much dope you can get for 200,000.
Shortly after, Hilda calls her boyfriend Mr. Blute and assures him that she's definitely going to kill Duncan. The assassins eventually arrive in Montana and locate Duncan while he's out buying another gift for Camille. On his way back, he runs into the expert charmer Cindy. Pretending her car has broken down, Cindy asks Duncan for help. As planned, with her phone conveniently dead and unable to call for help, Cindy ends up being taken to Duncan's house. Cindy has a plan and mentions that the help will arrive at 10 a.m. the next day, allowing her to stay over. Throughout the night, she initiates things by playfully teasing Duncan.
You're cute for an older guy.
I said I'd never anyone older than my dad.
They start exploring each other's depths, while Facundo and the other assassins quietly prepare to ambush Duncan. Cindy positions herself to assist Facundo in taking the shot, but just before the trigger is pulled, Duncan quickly evades the attack, placing Cindy directly in the line of fire. She takes a serious hit to the shoulder, and Duncan quickly jumps off the bed to take cover. While Facundo is showering the house with bullets, Duncan manages to kill the girl with an axe throw. Moments later, Hilda and Carl burst into Duncan's home but can't find him. He's already slipped away and tracked down Facundo's location. Duncan quickly kills the sniper and takes his rifle. Using the thermal scope, he spots Hilda by the heat of her breath and takes her out with one shot. He also narrowly avoids a surprise attack from Carl, who suddenly appears behind him and kills him instantly. Afterward, Duncan looks for clues about who sent the assassins after him. He discovers a room key for an inn not far from his home. When he gets to the spot, he finds Junkie Jane drugged out of her mind. During her high talks, Duncan finds out that Camille has been kidnapped by Alexei. They had uncovered the special bond between Duncan and Camille through their investigations. Duncan hurries to Camille's house, but she has disappeared. Meanwhile, in Mr. Blute's big mansion, he's furious to learn that Duncan has killed his girlfriend and his assassin team. Vivian simply smirks and reminds him that she had warned him about this.
Don't be sad. You'll find a new girlfriend. Shouldn't be a problem with your hot looks.
She once again suggests he should stop messing with Duncan and just pay him his pension, but he still refuses.
This is personal.
Duncan decides to ask for the help of his old friend Porter, a retired assassin. He believes the old man knows how Mr. Blute thinks. After Duncan fills Porter in on the situation, the latter reveals that Blute plans to eliminate Duncan before he can retire. He also believes that Camille is being held in Blute's huge mansion. Despite all of this, just as Duncan is about to leave, Porter betrays him by drugging him into unconsciousness. It turns out Porter had secretly teamed up with Mr. Blute to earn a reward for turning Duncan in. Shortly after Duncan wakes up in Mr. Blute's underground dungeon where he's chained up, Blute has 4 days until Duncan's birthday and plans to torture him before killing him on that day. While torturing him, Mr. Blute shows him pictures of Camille, trying to break him mentally. Camille has been kept in a confused, drugged state by Junkie Jane. On the 3rd day, while Blute is stabbing Duncan with his favorite thin knife, part of the blade breaks off on a metal piece implanted inside Duncan. Furious, Mr. Blute slashes Duncan's face and stabs him in his left eye. Overnight soaked in his own blood, Duncan uses the broken piece of the knife to unlock his chains. In the morning, when the guards enter, Duncan catches them off guard and kills them all. When Mr. Blute arrives, Duncan cuts off the power and uses the darkness to his advantage, killing as many guards as he can. As Mr. Blute escapes, Duncan fights his way out and takes down any guard who tries to stop him. Wounded and weak, Duncan visits his friend Jasmine, a gun dealer he trusts. She helps him heal and gives him some advanced weapons. Once he's feeling better, Duncan calls Vivian and offers to trade himself for Camille. Vivian agrees, but she and Mr. Blute plan to double-cross him. Duncan heads to an abandoned warehouse, sets up his HMG, and calls Vivian again. He arranges a meeting at a train station for the next morning, but this time, unlike before, he doesn't hang up quickly or destroy his SIM card. As a result, Vivian tracks his location and shows up with a group of armed men, including Alexei. When they face off, Duncan gives Vivian a chance to walk away, but she's confident she's got him cornered and refuses. As the team gets ready to shoot Duncan, he raises his hands. He activates his laser-guided heavy machine gun, wiping out all of Blute's men in a flash. Much to our surprise, he spares the injured Vivian and moves on to confront his real target, Mr. Blute. After seeing the situation on a surveillance camera, Mr. Blute becomes scared and tells his remaining men to tighten security at his home. However, when Duncan arrives at the mansion, they decide to run away instead of confronting Duncan Vizsla. Blute tries to have Camille brought to him, but it's way too late. Black Kaiser has already reached his room. With a swift swing of his axe, Duncan decapitates him, putting an end to his greed once and for all. Duncan rescues Camille, brings her back to Montana, and helps her recover. While looking around her bedroom, he stumbles upon old newspaper articles about a family that was murdered years ago. To his shock, he realizes it was a hit he himself had carried out based on wrong information. The memory of that mistake has been haunting him ever since. The only survivor from that massacre was a little girl who he now understands is Camille. Even though Duncan has made countless donations to help the girl over the years, he never saw her again after that tragic day. Suddenly, we can see Camille standing behind him, holding a gun aimed at him. She tells Duncan the only thing she can see is his face, the man who killed her entire family in front of her and ruined her life.
I pray that I died that night. Why didn't you just shoot me?
With tears in his eyes, Duncan apologizes and explains how the job had gone wrong. He knows Camille has every reason to hate him and is ready to accept whatever happens next. He tells her if killing him will free her from the pain, she should go ahead and do it. Trembling and emotional, Camille hesitates but eventually pulls the trigger. But it turns out it didn't hit Duncan. In the final scene, Camille turns to Duncan and asks for his help in finding out who ordered the murder of her family, and he agrees to help her get the answers she seeks. Okay, that's all for today's video. Hope you found the recap interesting. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.